What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the market so far and some very important levels to watch for. What big pieces of news are coming out for today as we have the FOMC minutes and Nvidia's earnings. I'm also going to break down some new pieces of news coming out involving Tesla and other things like that. But before I break into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. Tesla stock is currently at this trend line of support. We'll see if this holds on Tesla. If we end up losing this support right here, we could see Tesla start sinking even lower as the market's looking a bit weaker this morning. But there's some other important technical developments I want to talk about. It's not just Tesla being at support, but also on SPX. I'm going to be breaking down something very important about it in the next couple of minutes. But first, we want to be talking about what's happening to the markets and how things are looking thus far. So when it comes to the market, I just want to call out a couple of events and things like that over the next couple of minutes. First off, I just want to mention that when we look at the economic calendar, we have new home sales coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we also have our auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. Nothing too crazy, but the big piece of data is going to be the FOMC minutes at 2 o'clock p.m. This is once again just a report by the Fed. We're going to find out what the Fed is doing with policy and what the views are of different officials. And then don't forget, after market close, we have a bigger catalyst, and that's going to be Nvidia's earnings. That's going to be very important. The market has been on a roll so far. We're seeing the market continuing to rip. But I just want to warn everyone, Nvidia has been pumping approaching its earnings, and you just want to be very careful after earnings comes out. We're also at some key resistance on the S&P 500. I'm going to break that down in the next couple of minutes. Just another few pieces of news first before I do that, though. The CEO of Microsoft, Nadella, is saying that he wants changes to OpenAI. Retail's last word before Black Friday is going on because Black Friday is just a couple of days away. And we have a couple of retail earnings like Best Buy, Lowe's, Dick's Sporting Goods, and etc. So we'll see what happens right before Black Friday. Tuesday is very important. Nvidia is going to be the darling of AI. And it's going to be very, very important when it comes to its earnings and how it moves. We're going to be expecting a big move. At least the market is expecting like a 40 points move on Nvidia. So we're going to be watching this very carefully after market close. It's going to affect the whole market. And on top of this, gas prices are on track to be the cheapest they've been on Thanksgiving since 2020. We will see if this continues, but don't forget that OPEC has a meeting, I believe, next week, which could give a boost to crude oil prices. So you want to be very careful if there are more production cuts. Now, moving forward, when it comes to Tesla, we're seeing a lot of scrutiny about Tesla. Elon Musk is still making headlines, and we're still seeing negative news about Tesla. This one right here is another negative piece of news about Tesla launching its own insurance. They're going on about how many drivers are unsatisfied with what the benefits have been in the service of Tesla, and there have been some complaints about Tesla insurance from state regulators, and the Ohio Department of Insurance at least twice this year determined that Tesla violated the state's insurance regulations. And we're just continuing to see lots of negative news like this. Now, Tesla does not specialize in insurance. Once again, complaints against insurance companies are not uncommon. This happens to all sorts of companies, especially in states like California, Utah, and etc. But I just want to make it very clear that with this making headlines, with all the scrutiny Tesla's getting, a lot of the news is very negative and still affecting Tesla, especially the news involving Elon Musk very recently. So all of this is not the best of pieces of news, but things will improve as time goes on. I'm still very confident in that, and I'm still confident in Tesla's long-term future. So we have to wait and see after the Cybertruck launch event, and also we have to wait and see what happens going into the end of the year. But for now, as of right now, at the moment I'm recording this, the news has been negative and it's negatively affecting Tesla. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about this. We have a very, very important level of resistance right here on SPX that we're going to be watching very carefully. Basically, if you look at SPX on the weekly time frame, we're approaching this key resistance. If we break this resistance thanks to Nvidia, we could see 4,600. If we fail, we could reject here and come down a bit, just like pull back a little bit before we continue higher later on. But there could be a rejection here, so you're going to be watching this very carefully. Now, going back to Tesla, I'm going to talk about a couple more things about Tesla than SPY. So on Tesla, we're basically very flat right now. But I need to like zoom out a little bit. All right, anyways, looking at Tesla, let me just zoom out on the chart to show you what's happening on the hourly time frame. Okay, so right here, Tesla has this critical support. We're going to be watching this zone on Tesla. We can also draw out a flag right here, technically. If you look at how Tesla's looking, we're actually still respecting these different trend lines. We have this like resistance right over here as well. But thus far, we're going to be watching support and resistance on Tesla. And just know that Tesla's respecting this support down here. If Tesla loses the support trend line, expect it to come back down towards 233 flat. Then we have 232 and then 230 below that. And we also have some key support on Tesla at our 200 EMA at 230, and then we have 227 at the 20 EMA as two more supports on the daily. So those are going to be very important. 227, 230, and then on top of that we have 232, and then this trend line right over here, 233, and then the trend line. So watch and see if this trend line holds on Tesla. If we lose this, we're going to turn more bearish. If we try to rebound, you'll be watching 236.5 as a key resistance, and above that we have 237. If you want to turn bullish, you want to get above 238, and we can start pushing for 240 to 242. As of right now, we're kind of below that, so we'll be watching for an attempt to rebound, and then we'll see if Tesla retests this trend line, if we break below it or not. So I'm seeing this thing rebounding a bit, but then we'll be watching if this trend line holds, because the market's looking a little bit weaker this morning. On SPY, right now we're trying to rebound a bit. I mean, I guess we could technically draw out this support just like this, at least very carefully, very tightly. But if we want to draw it from like here, we could also connect the dots like from right about there. It doesn't really matter, at least as of right now. If anything, I would say that we're at this support on SPY. We're going to be watching if we could hold above 453. If we lose this, I anticipate it's going to start coming down towards 452. That's going to be key support. If we lose 452, we're going to be sinking back down towards like 450, and that's going to be a big move to the downside, at least from where we currently are. So watch 452 as key support. For resistance, watch 454 and 455, and we'll be watching to see how this moves. We're looking a bit weak right now. We might try to respect this trend line a bit and then like reject. If we break this, I would anticipate some downside. So watch for a move to the downside and watch that 452 support. It is looking a little bit weaker this morning. The market is due for a cool off. On the QQQ, we're basically holding support at 389. If we balance, we could be looking for a retest of 390. We could reject off of this and start sinking lower towards these imbalances. We're going to be watching for a little rebound. Could we get very close to 390 and reject? And if we lose 389 eventually, watch 388, 387, then 386.25. And for resistance, it's 390 and 391. It might rebound a little bit, but there's going to be a risk of it coming back down towards 388. That's a key support. Watch that very carefully. Also want to call out the QQQ because if you look at the 4-hour time frame, it's starting to curl a little bit. We have this like bearish divergence that still remains. It's looking a little weaker. It looks like it wants to cool off a bit towards this imbalance. We could see 386 if you lose 388, but just to be safe, we'll be watching this very carefully, and we'll be very unbiased if anything like that. On Nvda is holding this trend line right here, right? We have this historical trend line from yesterday, right? And we're going to be watching if we could hold 500. If we hold this, we could make an attempt for 502, 504 to 505 is next, and 508. If we're bearish, we want to see it lose 500 and start like trading sideways. If we lose 500, we might just trade sideways. We have 498, 495, and 490 as support. I think that's it's looking a little weaker with the market. It may cool off a little bit before earnings. We might lose 500 and just trade sideways in this range, go back and forth for a bit, and that's going to be completely normal. Sometimes stocks do this on the day of earnings, and that would not be anything crazy. The real move is going to come after earnings, and the market's expecting a 40-point move on Nvda. Will we see Nvda absolutely squeeze shorts, or is Nvidia about to come back down to earth? We're going to find out after market close, after earnings come out. For Apple stock, we're looking like we have like a flag that could be forming right here. I can actually redraw this like this. This looks like a flag that could be forming. And we're going to be watching this blue trend line acting as our support. For resistance, watch 191. Watch this trend line up next at 191.25, then 192. For support, you're going to be watching the blue trend line right here. Watch this white trend line. I know it's a little, they're kind of like intersecting. Then we have 190.5, 190, and then 189. Right now, it looks like it's going to try to rebound a little bit, then make its way back down. It might end up breaking the blue trend line. So if we lose this blue trend line of support, it could turn a little bit more bearish and start downtrending towards 190. I think the odds favor getting into the low 190s, but just to be safe, we'll be watching it. So with that being said, Apple might rebound a bit and start cooling off a little bit. Market's looking a bit more bearish. So we'll be watching these charts very, very carefully. That being said, thank you all so much for listening. Watch support and resistance and just know the market's at a critical level. And Nvidia's earnings and possibly the FOMC minutes at 2 p.m. are going to be make or breaks for the rallies in the market. So watch all these events carefully. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again and peace out.